What if the next trillion-dollar company isn't chasing trends, but actually solving age-old human needs, just reimagined with AI? So today we're joined by Oji and Ezinne, two powerhouse builders, investors, and tech veterans. They came from companies like Twitter, Typeform, Calendly, T-Mobile, and they just teamed up to release their book called Building Rocket Ships. And in this conversation, we're going to unpack a lot from that book and also just in general the trends right now and what it really takes to build a product that's going to last in this whole AI gold rush time. Let's dive into it. Did you know that most businesses only use about 20% of their data? I mean, that's like reading a book with 80% of the pages just ripped on out. You're not getting the full picture. So the point is, you're going to miss a lot unless you're using HubSpot. So their customer platform gives you access to a bunch of data that you need to grow your business. There are things like insights trapped in your emails, your call logs, your just transcriptions of chats that you're having, either with yourself or with others. It's a ton of unstructured data that's going to really make all the difference for you. So because you want to know more, you'll be able to grow more. And that's kind of like having that full book, the 80% of the pages shoved back in there so you're seeing everything. So get that for yourself. Go visit HubSpot.com today. Oji, Ezinne, I love to have that you're both here, and this is it's honestly just going to make it even better. So you're a power duo, but you're more than that too. I mean, you guys have individually. I mean, I can't even list all the backgrounds. So like, everyone do your independent research. But let's talk about it. You both come from incredible backgrounds with large companies like Twitter, Typeform, T-Mobile. And I'm kind of blending both of your sides here. Procore, construction. I mean, because I know there's construction folks listening. There's tech people listening. The fact is, you guys have great perspective of businesses who have done amazing things, have exited, scaled, people, and like leading on the tech. And I think that's kind of that's really fascinating in this world of AI and all the tools that everybody's experiencing in this next wave that's happening. So I guess I'll start with thanking you. And how are you guys doing? How are you feeling with where we're at in the world? Because everything's so fast. But like, how are you feeling about it? Are you like jazzed up for it? Opportunities?
I mean, I'm excited. I think
Yeah.
that there's so much change happening, breakneck speed. It is dizzying,
Mm.
but I love roller coasters anyway, so this just works for me.
Yeah.
I feel lucky that I've been in the tech space for quite a while, so I'm able to look behind and think about what happened in the past and try and get some learnings from that. So
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
really excited about it, actually. Audrey,
Yeah.
what's up?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I feel the same way. This is, it feels like a gold rush time, and it is,
Sure.
but and I think there are negative and positive versions of that gold rush. But
Mm.
I think the thing that your listeners should understand is that this is a time of great opportunity. Like when Bill Gates discovered computing in the 75 to 80, 83, when they started Microsoft, was a time of great opportunity. Silicon chips had just come out and
That's
the
right.
world was going to change. And he saw it. A lot of people did not. Okay. And when the internet, which Bill Gates did not shepherd, came out, I like to say the internet dropped. When the internet dropped, there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
time of great opportunity, and we've made trillions, like
Yeah.
30 trillion bucks from that, right? And the earlier thing. And so this is the same time. And so patient builders, ingenious builders are going to change the world. I want to talk about money because they will make money and lose
Sure.
money, just to be clear. But we're very excited about that big level of thinking, but also just the details. Like, what is the life of a startup guy? What is the life of a startup marketer? What is the life of an investor? All those things are going to change. And these are some of the things that we've been thinking about and we've been living.
Yeah, you definitely lived it through your own individual journeys. Of course, I'm sure you share a lot of the inside scoop, and obviously you wrote a book about it as well. So we'll talk about that. And but I mean, you said it's a great opportunity. I mean, I just came back. I told you I came back from Cisco Live, where that's all their keynotes were. We're interviewing some of the top execs, and I'm like, everybody is just has the same mindset. Like they're an AI forward company, and but you said patient builders because, and I'm curious, what do you mean by that, OG?
There's a lot of our industry that is trend focused. right? Someone builds a Calendly. You want to know how many people who are building a Calendly beater have come to me to consult with them. You know what I mean? So people chase trends. Originality isn't like a premium in industry. Actually, even investing, like you see something that works and you want to, invest in the next Facebook, and before you know it, people start chasing failed social media startups. My point is that people who tap into perennial needs and workflows, like there's an undercurrent of value that is the same from generation to generation, even when the technology level changes. Like, for example, on the consumer side, we know that dating is always going to make money if you're ingenious at it,
I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Everything from Plenty of Fish to Tinder, right? We know that gamble. I don't want to say this, but there are all kinds of things, sports and so on, that are always good. But the technology changes and the way it comes out changes. But also in B2B, people are always going to want to sell stuff. People are always going to marketing. People are always going to want to crunch the numbers and do data analysis. But the things that we built 10 years ago, 15, are not going to cut it anymore. And they're going to be different because we just got a brand new tool that's going to make all the things easier. So patient builders are people who try to find sharp problems that are deep. We've had for a very long time, right? Microsoft Office is writing 50,000 years. Math and accounting, 50,000 years.
True. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like email is communication, is smoke signals.
Yeah.
And so like patient builders are people who plumb deep needs and then find ways to express them in new ways that match the next level of technology and convenience. That's what I mean.
That's a great way to put it. That it's they're deep needs expressed in different ways. It's sharp problems, like you said. They're the ones that will always be around, but they're almost like shape shifting in these different forms.
Yes, the technology shifts around the need.
What do you think doesn't shift in all of this?
Let's put it this way. A thesis we have is a great replacement. Like everything you're using today will not be the same in 10 years.
Yeah.
Like they have been the same for 10 years, roughly. They will not be the same. They will all be replaced. The only question is, are the people who make them today going to be the ones to make the new thing, or is it going to be a new startup? And the thing that doesn't change is like, sorry, I don't want to get existential, isn't it?
It's okay. I love that kind of stuff.
She'll accuse me of not being practical, but the thing,
It's okay.
we're all mammals. You know what I mean? Like we need to socialize. There are some things that are, we thought Twitter would change the world, but it turned out that people just found their tribe on Twitter and just stuck with it. And instead of having conversations instead of in a pub, they just have it on Twitter. So that's what I mean. Like, some things have changed because they're rooted in human nature.
So what some other things? No, I'll just add to that. Some of the things that don't change, like Oji said, the need is the need. It's a perennial need. It's an underlying need, whether it's B2C or individual or B2B. The second I would say is return on investment, right? The people who are paying attention to how their investment is being used and shaped are the ones who will win. And I say this because we find people who build, everything is fast, everything is happening quickly. And some people rush. And in that rushing, they're not thinking about the math in the end. And there are always going to be analogies to currency, right? Back in the day in the social media world, it was followers, right? Followership, then influencers, and that became currency in some way. Building a social network became more important. Eyeballs became more important. So there is always an analogy to currency in some way. So I think that just being able to pay attention to perennial need, really paying attention to a return on capital, that always will matter, period, because you have to pay for the future. And then what is your analogy for currency? What is your analogy for profitability? What is your analogy for growth? Because there always is one in this day and time. So I haven't figured out what it is in an AI world, but with every new technology, there often is something. So just paying attention to what that analogy could be.
Technology companies we build stuff that make people either useful or happy, right? So that doesn't change. Like founders and product managers and product marketers and investors, it's really about build something. And I love the way like some of this really like early stage people talk about it. You build something that people love, that is really useful, that solves a sharp problem for them. That's one dimension. And the second one is you build a business model that makes you money from that, right? Software only works really well because the marginal cost of production is zero.
Right.
And so if you hit a certain number of customers, you make money, and a lot of it. And so
Yeah.
you make them happy, you solve the real thing, and then you design a business model that's really efficient. And I think those won't change.
Awesome answers, by the way. I love how you started with the existential, which I love, all the way into this profound shift to practicality. Let's make it a little bit more practical, because you're all about like, well, how does someone like a startup? I mean, and let's be honest, like even if someone hasn't run a startup before and they're listening, watching, they have some existing business, they probably see maybe a sharp problem that they want to solve in their vertical. So maybe they do the vibe coding thing, or maybe they just hire someone, or maybe they're just trying to figure out what the product market fit is, just like, but how to test it at the smallest possible level. Like, how do you get someone? I guess, how do you navigate this, and how would you advise someone in that phase?
The way this works is our industry has actually pissed away a lot of money based on the passions of founders. Like founders wake up one morning and they're obsessed with one thing that they think should change in the world. The thing that we wish, because we spent many hours talking to them. And actually, I've been a founder, so I've made this mistake, so I've lived it. The thing you should check to see is this a sharp problem to anybody else? Is it a sharp problem to 10 people, to 20 people, to 1 million people? Because that's what really matters. It's not about an expression of your need and your ingenuity that you're bringing to market. That's sort of the old way. It's really customer satisfaction. We should be thinking like, like Procter and Gamble. They don't make a Swiffer until they know that 1 million people are going to buy a Swiffer, if that makes sense. So it's like, think about the problems of other people, not so much your problem. And then think about where you have insight so that you can inject passion and stick-to-itiveness when you're building that startup. When Jeff Bezos built Amazon, he built a shopping mart, right? Yeah. He built a shopping mart. I don't even know if he was passionate about it. I think he was passionate not just about building a shopping mart, but building something that was more accessible to people. Right. And just getting out of there and driving somewhere else. Versus the problem itself is like, look, this has to transform. I'm the transform guy of this market. And so I think you start out by really figuring out, is this a problem that a lot of people feel deeply? And then the second thing is you ask yourself, what would a transformation of that look like? And then you build a simple, lovable, but complete version of that and put it in front of customers. Sometimes that will take you 3 months. If it's a very common problem, it might take you 2 years because the level, when they say MVP, minimum viable, minimum for a big need is very high because there's a lot of products in the market.
That's right.
And so like Figma famously built for 2 years because the viable was super high because of Adobe, right?
Yeah.
And so viable took a long time. So you just have to figure out what that is. The simplest, most cogent, attention-grabbing version of something you can put out. And it's a variable time. We want to keep it as short as possible, but it's not always possible to make it in 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, and that's where I think these vibe coders and all that, or because everybody has access to Cursor now, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, I actually think this is an amazing time for that founder you're referring to who is trying to figure out, okay, I found a sharp problem. How do I move on? Because I remember the days I ran innovation or whatever it is, startup inside a company, right? And the biggest thing was the time it took to create a prototype, right? Mm-hmm. So right now, I think the biggest challenge most founders will find after they've done everything Oji says, find the sharp problem, really think through is how do you get access to people so that you can actually test? That is actually the bigger problem now because prototyping should be easy. Wizard of Oz is all the things you can literally use Cursor, Lovable, all those things to build something that is workable. So it's actually a really, really interesting time. So it's one of those get off your butt and just do it. But the hardest part I remember was, having to log into Craigslist and incentivize people to show up and use my product so that, to test whether it works or doesn't work. But that gaining access so that people could actually play around with that product and give you feedback is actually the more challenging piece now than ever before. Before it was actually writing the code, building the software. No, vibe coding is making that much easier. So it's how do you get people and get real feedback because they can actually use your work now. So that's an interesting challenge. So for founders listening, it really is more about access to humans and humans who will tell you the truth.
That's a good point. Yeah. So are you saying like trusted people, people maybe that you hire, bring on your team and also people to give you feedback and tell you truth?
No. So the thing is
Research.
Research.
is target, like one of the things that people do is like they'll build something and they'll put it out in the world and they'll get mixed feedback. Well, you should always filter your mixed feedback by your target customer. So one of the things you should do is any problem, sharp or not, has a profile, a very narrow profile initially that will respond to it. Not everybody, right? So sharp problems also attach to narrow target customers. So find 100 of them who will experience what you're doing for free or for paid. It doesn't matter what it is. It depends on what you're testing, but target them. And I think what Ezinne is saying is that the build part is
Easier now.
the build part is super fast now. Like we met a team in Ukraine who, after you get off the phone and tell them about your problem, they'll crank out the prototype in 4 hours.
That's great.
In 4 hours.
But that shows the world we're in. Yeah. How fast.
But if you then get the prototype, what do you do with it? Well, expose it to customers as soon as possible, low stakes, beta, whatever you want to call it, and start to learn, right? It's that learning process that makes you a viable startup.
It's incredible. And I think that should be the shift that people are hearing right now is like, okay, the creation piece is, and you can, of course, get someone else to do that. And I'm going to pause this really fast and shout out a podcast that you should go follow. It's called The Science of Scaling. It's hosted by Mark Roberge, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Now, the reason why I like this show is that each week, Mark Roberge, the host, sits down with leaders in business and talks about scaling properly. So I like Mark because he is in the trenches. He is the founding CRO of HubSpot, senior lecturer at Harvard Business School. He's a co-founder of Stage 2 Capital, and he's diving into the secrets, the strategies, all these tactics of how to properly grow with people that are doing it right now. What I've found is most companies, when they're growing, they either do the wrong things to grow or they do the right things in the wrong order. And that's what I gathered from these episodes. So it's a great way to straighten all that up. So go listen to Science of Scaling wherever you get your podcasts. The world's top entrepreneurs are already cloning themselves with AI, and you can too. At AI Build Team, we've already helped industry leaders turn their knowledge into AI-powered digital twins that teach, sell, and engage on autopilot. It's not the future. It's literally happening right now, so don't get left behind. Head over to aibuildteam.ai/Joe, and you can talk with my AI twin. You'll instantly see how it works and how it can help you scale. So again, head over to aibuildteam.ai/Joe. Like, how would you suggest most people, because it's very simple to get distracted and start going down the lovable train or, cursor. But like as a founder and obviously you guys are investing in these as well with your fund, right? So like, how do you advise someone to maybe work with people to help them out? Because I know that's a challenge right now to find folks that can think in this way and also you can trust. And I know it's kind of loaded, but where do you start there?
One of the underestimated parts of building is like just building. Like before, it was most founders don't have coding skills. And so you have to find a team or at least one person, CTO, whatever you call it, a co-founder. Now you can just start building it yourself. Now, honestly, I'll tell you, my synthesis based on looking at all these tools is that it's actually difficult to build something customer ready with Lovable and so on and so forth. It's harder than people think. Because what happens is you have to be smart enough to think through all the human parts of this, not just throw up some code. Like, does it feel good? Does the journey hang together? And very people aren't trained. Some people go to college for this stuff, right? Yeah. Does it hang together? Because you can throw up something simple, but something that people will use for a day, 2 days, and be happy. That's not trivial. But that's getting easier regard. I know how hard it is. It used to be super hard. You used to have 2 developers you work with for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Now you can put together a prototype yourself, which is actually a very good PRD, the prototype itself, to work with professional developers who you get online immediately. And then the thing that happens is you throw it to the first customer, they love it, but it's basic. And they're like, change this and change that. If you're not smart enough to vibe code the changes, then you're stuck. Does that make sense?
That
So
totally does.
start by yourself, but don't think that you can go the distance by yourself unless you're a professional. There are lots of developers who build like single one-man SaaS because they can. They have trained. But if you're not, start by yourself, but very quickly hire people who can continue, who are pro or semi-pro. Because the part of building a software company, like we said, is listening to customer feedback and adjusting to it. And a lot of people just like can't do that just with vibe coding, right?
Right.
Your
Yeah.
customer says, do this feature, and then you're stuck.
Back in the day, you'd write a product requirement document. It's like a physical document back then. You'd have V1, then you'd have V2, then V3. By the time the product was launching, you were probably at V100 and something, and you were changing words on a page because you learned more. You learned what the requirement was. You learned what was optional. You learned what the software developer had to do and what could be done, right? So that's back in the day. Right now, to Audrey's point, it's important that founders just vibe code, build that prototype, but not get stuck and in love with the software on the page, right? They
Yes.
need to do V2. And they can start over again because with V1, your goal was not necessarily to have it working in the user's hand, was to learn. Then V2, you learn again. Throw away the other code, build it again. V4, learn again, right? And if you think of it that way, by the time you're building your V10, you have more information of what to give the coding team you're bringing on, right? But if you think of the software as precious, you're going to get stuck. But if you use it more as a learning tool, a prototype, your product requirement document that is being revised each time, and I think you have it. I was just talking to some late product person I mentor, and this is literally what I was just saying to her. This is
Good.
how you need to think about it. It's there for you to learn.
At Product Mind, we believe that PRDs are going the way of the dodo, right?
Ah.
A PRD is going to be an app. Because here's how it works. You write a PRD, you sit in a meeting with a bunch of developers, you try to get them to see your vision, and then they write something and they tell you, is it what you want? Is it what you want? And then you do another PRD and you have another meeting, blah, blah, blah. No, you, the founder, you write the app. But don't think about this as a final app. It's an avatar of your final app. It embodies your vision. You hand it off. The developer doesn't need to read a document. They can see it. They can read the code. And then you can keep revising until you get an application that customers love.
And they'll know how to make it secure. They'll know how to make it scalable. They'll know where the dead ends are. And that is where they come in to actually finesse it and make it beautiful. But at least you've given them that avatar. So think of that. Just run with it and just make your versions to learn, put it in your customers' hands and just have them learn. And it's okay to trash it, take your learnings, take that, put it into the new prompt, right?
Yeah.
And start over. There's nothing there. You didn't write those lines of code, so don't be precious about it.
Well, we're working
true.
on a project now where we are on V20 of the app we're building.
Yeah. And that's all through no code, all this stuff, the vibe.
Yeah,
coding.
we're using a mix of things like Vercel and so on. But like at Phalanx, we a studio, so we invest, but we also build. If that makes sense.
Yeah, a few people
Absolutely.
building little things to test and try. So yeah.
I love it. I mean, would you suggest most people get familiar with these kind of apps just to see what's possible? Like, have you seen?
100%. Like you should be, if you're a builder, you should be living in these apps. They should be your best friend.
Cool. And you mentioned Lovable, Cursor. Do you have all these other?
So
there's a lot.
Vercel, Lovable, Cursor. They also design tools. On that side, there are website creation tools for marketing applications. Like whatever is speeding up development by 10x, you should be using.
I love it. I think your analogy to creating an avatar, it's just like a customer avatar. Like there's psychographics, demographics, all these different qualities of that thing. And it's just a snapshot of that person, but that might even change with more data and input coming in.
100%, 100%. Everything is the prototype, the vibe coded thing is a representation of an early. That's how you go from a garden shack to the Empire State Building. But you remember that not everyone matters initially. Only the people you identify who actually need experiencing this problem, not the entire world. Those are the people that matter, and target them with that thing.
I actually want to underscore this. This is something I learned working with Techstars and all the founders there. It's really important that people listening know that when you do put your product, Audrey said this earlier, but I need to underscore, when you put your product out there, you will get feedback, right? If you get 10 people, but really pay attention and give weight to what we call the ideal customer profile. Like you really need to understand who is this thing for and give weight to that. So even if you've heard from 10 people, 4 may be the only ones that actually truly matter, because that's who you're targeting first. You want them to be your early adopters. You're shaping the product around them. So that's something I noticed that folks that I talk to often haven't learned and is worth underscoring.
That's a very good underscore. I think you're going to save a lot of people a lot of time, I hope, and money, and like you said, it's a gold rush right now, but it's for the patient builders. I know it's for the focused as well. Like I've heard a lot of people say that, like, if you just focus in on whatever that sharp problem is that you're trying to solve, obviously with feedback, you just remember, like, we're in a noisy world that moves super fast, and we think that social media is distracting. I mean, just getting into Cursor or Lovable, then you're going to, like, you never know. And then thinking, oh, what's the other new tool I should try? And it's like, hold on.
100%. I remember when MCPs.
Yeah.
I remember when MCPs came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, going crazy." And yeah. I would now ignore REST APIs and do MCPs forever. No, not necessarily.
And if you don't know what that means, y'all go listen to some YouTube videos, or hire someone. Either way. Well, I kind of want to wrap it up on this, but talk to me about a product system and how you guys approach that, because maybe you nail it on the first version or single feature, but how do you keep that going, and how do you create a system out of it that's sustainable?
So let me offer like a high level definition. Oji is really good at like giving good summaries and succinct sound bites. So I'll let him end with it. But
Good.
First off, a product system refers to the things that are happening within your organization, right? The different systems that actually interoperate, that are present, whether or not you're paying attention to them, that lead to the products you build. And when we talk about a product system, we're actually talking about 3 core things. No matter what, in any company, even as a little startup, there's a way in which your people interact with each other, right? There's a way in which, so we call that the system of people. And there's also a way in which you are finding strategic direction, how you're making decisions, how you're prioritizing, and that we call holistically a strategy or wayfinding, right? What decisions matter there, but what's most important? That's what we call strategy. There's a system of that. Then there's also a system of execution. Who does what? How do they do it? How does it ladder up into the bigger goals?
What tools
are we using? Where do we reference our code? Is it PRDs versus prototypes? How do they work together? And that's what we call a system execution. That is what a product system is really about. Whether or not you have sat down and thought about it that way, they exist. So when we name a product operating system, we are actually asking you to be intentional about how those 2 things interact with each other.
3 things.
And how those 3 things interact with each other, and how they lead to repeatability and scale over time. So that's really what it really is about. Anji, you want to layer in and bring it on?
No,
home?
I think you nailed it. There are 3, 4. Let's use physics as a metaphor.
Yeah.
There are 3 major forces acting on a startup or any technological company, right? People, how you find direction, and how you execute. Whether or not you realize that those forces are acting on your startup, they're acting on your company, even if it's Google, right? There's a reason people fret about the direction of Google. Did they miss something? It's the same thing. And what we try to teach people is to make those things to make them more intentional. And we teach people how to interact for those 3 things to interact, how they can do ballet together to make sure that you have an innovation engine that is humming all the time. If you have 1 or 2 of those things or none of those things, you will eventually stutter, right? I was at Microsoft when we were stuttering during the Obama years, and I saw this happen. I built a startup, and it's the same principle. In the book, we talk a lot about how to optimize the interaction between those 3, right? So that you're not a one-hit wonder you can innovate all the time. Because when you do it, your organization actually produces new ideas
Makes sense.
constantly.
Because it's intentional, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's intentional.
If you think about people, right, you see founder and employee tension because there isn't this clarity on, let's move to the decision-making piece, like what is most important. So sometimes you'll see that tension, but that tension happens not necessarily because they're individuals and butting heads. It's because there probably hasn't been an intentional conversation of their wayfinding. What is the most important thing? What are we prioritizing? So that is where the intersection of strategy and people, right? That's that interaction. Having a very clear conversation of, are we fighting for our lives? Is money the most important thing, or is long-term strategy important? And without that being said and discussed and like on the table, then you see this tension occurring, right? So it's just when we watch our different companies that we invest in or advise, we see these forces at play, and being able to design them with core intention, like, okay, who are the people who are decision makers? Who are the people who take from the decision makers and execute? Having clarity there. Then figuring out what is the most important thing we're doing. Is long-term strategy more important than short-term? What is our mix of investments? Having clarity there. And then also looking at what are the tools we use? Where can I find these decisions that have been made, right? So all those things are important, and you need to be working on them and figuring out how they interact. Sorry, we've said the same thing a few times, but I was trying to give you an example.
You're driving it home, and it's necessary because this is again, it's being intentional in the early phases, right? And not just letting it happen at whatever whim it's going to happen.
People think that effort and having fun produces good outcomes, but I think what we want people to understand is that there's a hidden rhythm to this thing that they got to pay attention to, regardless of your stage.
Right. Yeah, it's always happening. The people will be there, the way you find your strategy and the execution, how things get done. Like, and they evolve, right? So always getting that feedback.
Oh yeah, in the book we talk a lot of, we actually reference stages a lot. Where like when you're a startup, here's the forces acting on you. When you're mid-growth company, here's the forces acting on you and how they're different. And when you're bigger, here are the forces and how they act on you at that stage. So we actually very descriptive about it.
Yeah, no, it's great. So the book, we've mentioned the book by the book, but it's called Building Rocket Ships. Amazon, or actually, where you guys tell me where can they find Building Rocket Ships?
Right. So we wrote the book because we want the knowledge about how to build technology companies, which is somehow still stuck in Silicon Valley and in Seattle and a few cities. To be spread around the world. We want better products in the world and happier customers and rich founders. And so we've built Building Rocket Ships. You can find it on Amazon and every edition there is. I think we're going to work on the audio version of that. And on Shopify, you can see the same editions, but there's an additional bonus on Shopify. You have the Pro Edition. The Pro Edition is a product in and of itself. It is the book in digital form. You can also, you get the book, you get a digital form of the book, and you get twice the book in practical templates you can share with your team to turn it into, acceleration for your career. And so Ezinne worked really hard on that version, and I'm so proud of it.
I love it.
So just to make it easy, we are at productmind.co, and if you do /book, or if you land on that page, you'll see something that says get our book. That's the fastest way to get the Pro Edition, which is the Kodo Edition, which is interactive. I'm always looking at it, and people are always sending feedback or questions, and we'll update. So it's a really interactive product as well. So if that's your jam, then definitely go to productmind.co.
And you can also join the Product Mind community. We are curating a bunch of builders, and so we can talk to, and on Slack. So the Product Mind community is also available for people to join just to talk about this stuff.
That's super helpful. I want more people with communities because, again, we're mammals, right? Like, we got to keep... that's not changing. We need to communicate. I talk about that all the time.
See, you're getting it. There's some perennial needs, always.
Well, this is why, the cloning or the digital twin, it's all just furthering communication and connection. That's how I see it. It's connection at scale. So,
connection and skill. I like that.
That's what fires me up. So I think we all have to take that into this new reality of AI being everywhere and, who knows what the world looks like in 2 years, because it's hard to predict. But okay, this is fascinating. I'm happy that we, so go get Building Rocket Ships. Yeah, we'll link it all in the show notes. So productmind.co. Join all the things, Substack as well. Ezinne, Oji, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for your time. It was an honor. Get you both. It was great.
Thank you, Joe. We had so much fun hanging out with you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for having us. Yes.
Yeah.